Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, entitled The Forest of Enjoyment, text 36. Kvachik Shinadana Shayasana Shanadi Upaboga Vihino Yadvat Apratilabdam Manorato Pagata Dane Vasitamatis Tatastato Vamanadini Janad Abhilabhate. Okay, before we read translation and purport by His Divine Graces Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, what did we discuss yesterday?
Have to do some transaction with other people, and by that transaction they cannot expect everything will be good, perfect, because there is a tendency of cheating in everything.
Okay, there's a tendency of cheating. Transactions, yes, they're inevitable. We have to earn our living, no? There's a saying, even lion, even the king of the jungle has to, go and hunt, go and work, no? It's not that animals, he will just open the mouth and some animal will enter, no? Or something, huh? Everybody has to work, everybody has to do something. So in the course of such kind of work that some goods are obtained and one has to be involved in some kind of transaction, no? And as we see, as this age is progressing, these transactions are becoming more and more untrusted, because people have this very strong propensity to cheat. So we may supply some work, and somebody else may not provide for that. That's one thing. And then another thing is, even if somebody supplies something, he may not supply good quality. Just like the most common position is that every employer wants to pay their employees as less as possible, no? And every employee wants to work as less as possible, no? And be paid as much as possible. It's just natural. Yeah. Again, that kind of propensity. Why? Because it's all done. It's all done because of interest. No? There's a certain interest. There's a certain interest. And that interest is not based on loving transaction. Yeah. Transactions are there within the family, yes or no? There has to be translation. We discussed about transaction. We discussed about relationships, no? Giving, accepting, no? That's also transaction. But the mentality is completely different. Mentality is that, of course not nowadays, at least from the spiritual point of view, mentality should be, I should give more than what I receive. No? Just like devotees, they want to serve more Krishna, not just expect, oh Krishna, what you can give, what I can get from you. No? That's a spiritual mentality. Yeah. So that's why there is always competition. How much devotees will serve Krishna? And Krishna is also looking, how can I serve my devotees more? It's a competition. It's a transcendental competition. Not that we expect, oh, how much Krishna will give, then maybe I can think of responding in some way. No? That's a very materialistic, selfish mentality. Yeah? So that should not be present. That should not be there. The biggest problem is also that we don't even see what Krishna is doing for us. So then where is even question? We don't recognize that. Then where is even question then of responding or reciprocating in any way? Anybody needs translation? Nobody thinks about that? Huh? Are you sure? Okay. So therefore, any kind of involvement nowadays in any kind of transaction is going to inevitably be tinged with some kind of selfishness. And that means that the supply or whatever we may be dealing with is not going to be of a good quality. Little bit will have proper mentality. And that's why everything breaks down in this world. There is no trust, there are no relationships. There's nothing that can be permanent. No? Why? Because again, we are selfish. And then based on that selfishness, what we discussed also, what else we said yesterday? Then what happens? Where's your hand?
Enmity.
Enmity?
Enmity.
Enmity.
Enmity for the prophet.
Wait a second, did I call upon? Little norms, no? Enmity, yes, enmity, but something even worse than that. Something that we don't expect. Enmity, of course, somebody cheats you, somebody doesn't supply what they promised, or whatever. Of course you will feel betrayed, no? You'll feel cheated, no? You won't feel wonderful, and you won't want to deal with that person again, no? That's natural, but something even worse happens that we get involved with. It starts from us. What did we say?
We lose our belief.
Yeah, that's there. We lose the trust, we lose faith, that is there. But something else we discussed yesterday. Yeah.
When we started cheating to other people, then also we started cheating to our family.
Yeah, we start cheating ourselves. We cheat ourselves because our mind will cheat us. That is the biggest point, the most important point. We don't realize that. We start lying to others, our own mind will lie to us. We start compromising with others, we'll start compromising with our own value system, no? We don't keep promises to others, we won't be able to keep our own vows. Note that down. What did I say? You're spacing out. In which universe? Put this down. If we don't keep promises to others, we will not be able to keep our vows. That means promise to ourselves. We won't be able to keep it. Let's say, what are the vows we give when we practice spiritual life? For example, in spiritual process, we don't talk about material vows. You may give a vow. People give so many funny things, they'll say, I'll do this and I'll act like this and I'll... Okay, let's say, keep it simple. Kashimisha, what are you doing? Noting. Let's say I give a vow to lose the weight, from 145 to at least 90 or something. No? I give a vow. And I go on dieting. No? No? It happens. It happens. So many people are, concerned, conscious of their bodily position and this and that. So then you give a vow. From tomorrow, now I drink only dal, or something. I don't know whether. And this is only once a day. Whatever. But anyway, but you have such a corrupted, conditioned mentality that you promise so many things to so many other people, no? You tell them, yes, sure, I will deliver, I will do this, yes, this, this happens, no? And how it feels when people, disappoint you like this. Sometimes even I can use word betray, that's pretty heavy, You have some expectation, they promise, they said they'll do it. Actually, there is one even hell where you don't keep your promises. There's a special, special place where, you get certain reaction for that. That's described in the, 5th canto, at the end. Yeah, last chapter number 20, I think. Let me see. Where is that? 26. Yeah, 26. So you give so many promises to others, and then you disappoint so many people. But then, because you're acting in such a way, you won't be able to keep promises to yourself. That's what happens. That's what we discussed yesterday, no? Abhishek, yes or no? Yes, yes. Oh, where is the mind? So that's a very important point to understand. Why following Dharma, that's what we discussed also. Why following Dharma is essential, because Dharma will keep us on track, keep us grounded on the, safe place, from where we can then advance further in spiritual life. Otherwise we keep on degrading ourselves, and our position will become unsustainable. So that's why when we follow Dharma, and even that tendency might surface or might appear or whatever, we still keep it checked by following Dharma. We know it's not supposed to be done. We should not do it, especially for the selfish reasons. We gave some exceptions, but Dharma should be followed always, practically. So one should not lie, cheat, this and that. Not follow upon the promise. Should not take it lightly, because it generates reaction, very severe reactions. So when we are following Dharma, and we never lose. Even sometimes it may appear, we lost something. We could have gained this. We could have, accomplished that. No, it's not a fact. If it's not based on Dharma, better it didn't happen. Better, because it will not last and will just create further complications. So everything should be based. That's why we have to know what the Dharma is. That's what we are discussing here. We should know how to act in life, that it's based on such kind of solid principle. And if we don't know and we think, I got away, now I cheated and now I lied and I got something as very bad actually. You may think you've gained something, you gained nothing. You just gained the worst. So that's why we have to be very, very Krishna conscious, knowing how to act. That's the whole principle. That's why Krishna explains. In which chapter Krishna describes the karma? Law of action and reaction. Yeah, third. Karma, vikarma and akarma. Three types of actions, So we should be clear with that. Okay, anything else we discussed?
One should beware of lust.
One should beware of lust. Why? What's wrong? What's wrong? Everybody's doing it nowadays. Wait a second. What's wrong with lust? Everybody's advertising, everybody's, what's wrong with lust? Why are you so different? What's your problem? Okay, Baba.
It can lead to an avalanche.
Avalanche. Yeah, dislodging a small pebble can lead to an avalanche. Yeah, okay, we gave that example.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah, butterfly. You don't know about butterflies? No? Okay. Yeah. Turn hurricanes. Turn hurricanes. You don't, do some research later. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
Everybody create their own dreams, and their dreams are nothing but just illusion.
Yeah, we create so many illusions and fantasies. That's what we live mostly. I remember one boy. He was always like, in a dream world. He would daydream, he would night dream, always dreaming about so many things. And his life turned hellish, He lost spiritual life. And materially, he was just in very, very unpleasant position. Because when you're dreaming, then on the practical level, what do you do? Not much. Because you're just dreaming, no? And when you're supposed to do something on the practical level, you don't accomplish that, then what happens? It's a chaos. not a good idea. So we also like to daydream, oh, it would be nice like this. Especially when you're chanting, no? Then mind carries you, starts thinking, what about this, what about that, what about, very disastrous, very, very, very detrimental for spiritual life. There's no use of it. It's just a mental trip, mental journey. No use of that. So we should be concrete and real, understanding the reality. Okay, so what about they?
And they even try to fulfill that illusion.
Yeah, we are trying to fulfill the illusions, yes. Yeah, I can be like this star and that star, and I want to mold or model their lives. Their lives are fantasy, no? So how are you going to mold the fantasy? It's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah.
Isn't all modern science based on that assumptions and illusions?
Not
Somehow.
necessary. Not necessary.
But to an extent.
There are some realities. They do deal with some substantial.
Illusion is also a dream, kind of a dream.
Yes, it's a dream. But there's a difference between what is the position of the illusion, what is the what illusion is. Srila Prabhupada gives example. It's just like a cloud. We don't say that cloud doesn't exist, but we say that cloud is temporary.
But we predict the weather by projecting.
Okay, you think like trying to... Well, some things are based on some experience. Let's say even... Rahul, why are you hiding behind? Like in Ayurveda or something, like even meteorology, no? They have... there are certain clouds. Who was that? Varahamihira or someone, I don't know. They would be able, by seeing certain type of clouds, they will be able to determine what kind of rain or no rain will come. So it's not all just, all kinds of predictions. Some are based on something substantial. Yeah. Just like you may not exactly be able to point to minutest detail, but you can say, just like seasons, no? You can say, now it's winter, it's going to be cold. When summer comes, it's going to be hot, like this. When rainy season comes, it's going to be raining. Some things have some pattern, no? Some things are based on certain laws, and laws don't change, no? Okay. But when we overly try to emphasize or really speculate about something that we don't have experience, that's what's fantasy, fantasizing. Yeah. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Everybody has their own scripts, like things will be like that.
No, that was day before yesterday. Yesterday. Yeah, but based on what we discussed day before yesterday. Yeah, okay, fantasizing, everybody, woman is fantasizing, body is the man is fantasizing like this. When they get together, those fantasies don't match, that's it. Yeah, that's what. What?
Chant the name of 15 rounds to be attached with the Krishna consciousness. If we don't
Yeah, so that's what I said. Following Dharma, following the principles keeps us safe, at least, safely grounded. Otherwise, we may also be carried away by such illusions and such propensities and end up in trouble. No? So we also have to be very, very cautious, very much aware. Otherwise, we may also succumb to this kind of negative qualities and propensities now. So that's what we should be conscious. Okay, so let's see today. Translation. Sometimes having no money, the conditioned soul does not get sufficient accommodation. Sometimes he doesn't even have a place to sit, nor does he have the other necessities. In other words, he falls into scarcity. At that time, when he is unable to secure the necessities by fair means, he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. When he cannot get the things he wants, he simply receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshunamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Praya Krishna Preshta Bhutalishim Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Varamana Paschana Nirvishesha Shnari Paschattirashtagni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So sometimes having no money, there is always a pretty much, I guess everyone to some extent might have experience within the family or whatever. There might be a circumstance, where there are no resources. And one is just put in a very, very difficult situation. Like sometimes, even worse is like nowadays people take so many loans, and then there is a trouble how to repay those loans. And you have to still keep on paying interest, otherwise you lose it all, It's a big burden, it's a big trouble, it's a big anxiety. And sometimes it does happen. Sometimes banks on purpose promote such kind of loans that people cannot repay. And then they take whatever properties, whatever else you have had. It becomes a very difficult situation. So, just like you're all studying, your parents are working very hard to enable you to study. They're paying for your fees and whatever this and that. It's a hard work, So it's not always easy. And as it says here, sometimes there might be a situation when just there are no, facilities. Like I said in Mumbai, so many boys, they have families already. Means they're already mature, and they're not boys anymore. But anyway, they used to be. So they have to maintain the family, and it's very difficult to find a job if your job is threatened, Just like one of them. It was a little funny situation also, in a sense that he was overqualified. And for that being overqualified, like maybe 20 years or something, 15, 20 years working in a certain field, you're supposed to receive much higher salary than anybody else. But then some companies, they don't want to employ you because you have to receive very high salary. They don't require maybe they can hire somewhat maybe a little less experienced, but they will pay less. And now he was in trouble that he's not getting a job. So then what he said to one company when he went for interview and like this, he said, no problem, you pay me less. And they became even more suspicious. Then that means maybe he's not qualified. And then again he didn't get a job. It's a just vicious cycle in many ways. This becomes very, very difficult, very complicated. So I don't know now what is the situation, whether he got any project, he's still in the company, or now he found something else, or didn't found, it's still searching. It's always a trouble, it's an anxiety. Because now you're not alone anymore. You have a family, you have to think. You're under a lot of pressure, it's not easy. It's not just like before. Most of you are from village or something. You have your land and you have your cows and whatever. You'll survive. You have a house. Somehow you will live. In the big cities, where are you going to live from? Where are you going to live from? If you don't have a job, you don't have an income, where the living is going to come from? And this is modern life. We see that's the biggest disaster that happened to India. India used to be 90% rural. Maybe 10% lived in the cities. No? Nowadays, what is the situation? People are running from villages. Villages are abandoned. Land is not cultivated. It dropped down, I'm not sure about percentage, but it dropped down at least somewhere about 50% or something like this. It's somewhere there around, I'm guessing. Of course, the whole trend is worldwide. In the West, it's even worse. In America, maybe 10% people live on the land. Everybody else is in the cities. Everybody's so dependent. And then you have these multinational companies which control the supply and what kind of food you will get. That means they control the people. Whoever controls the food controls the people. And so many horrible things are going on. Yeah? And we are dependent. So you want to sustain yourself in your life, in your family, or whatever else. You're just so heavily dependent. Not a very good situation. That's why Srila Prabhupada emphasized so much that devotees should have a farm. Devotees should have their own land, and then depend on Krishna. Not depend on some kind of industrialist or who a politician or someone else or whatever else, on their life and sustenance, because then you compromise. Then you'll be compromised. Just for living, you will have to be ready to do whatever you're not supposed to do, according to Dharma. So it's a heavy compromise. Yeah. Of course, even nowadays, having one's own land, that can also be very, very troublesome. Because it's Kali Yuga, even that can be a trouble. Why? Because there are so many criminals on the high positions that they will dictate to you, even if you have a land, what you have to sow, what you have to produce. What you're supposed to do with the land and how much land you can have. So many different things. It's Kali Yuga. There's just always incredible pressure that forces people really to suffer, from all kinds of sources. So everything becomes very, very difficult. So then that's why it said sometimes there are situations. You may ask your parents sometimes. I don't know if they're working or something. Did they always, were always secure in their jobs or whatever, or look around. There's always a challenge. There's always a challenge. I know in Mumbai people change jobs every now and then. Every few years, they have to change the job. They just have to. It's not that they want to. They have to. So it becomes difficulty. So when there is no money, then what do you do? What do you do? It becomes such an anxiety, such a tension. Yeah? And then it says that when one is unable to secure the necessity by fair means, then he decides to seize the property of others unfairly. That means cheating, that means stealing, that means all kinds of things going on. Even within the families, I know how often it happens in regards to certain properties. There are so many disputes between family members. You might think we are a very nice family, and then when it comes to the certain property, let's say grandmother, grandfather, they leave and this and that, and property has to be divided. I heard from so many boys, so many issues are going on. And then somebody wants to observe more than what they are supposed to, and so many horrible things going on. So very, very unfair dealings. And then it says, when a person in such situation cannot get things he wants, he receives insults from others and thus becomes very morose. We have a story in 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam about Avanti Brahmana. That's a very, very instructive story. How the whole life he was actually a very miserly person. That's another thing, And he wasn't able to satisfy his family because he was just so miserly. And then his family rejected him. And then he had to figure out how to survive. But that's what purified him, and that's what made him a very, very great saint. Yeah? Because he got very, very strong realizations. But even nowadays, let's say somebody tries to maintain the family and sacrifices everything and whatever, and still family members are not satisfied. Then what do you do? Or even if you want, but you can't, and that's why there will be so many insults. There will be so many purifications. Or even some old people. Nowadays, who wants to tolerate old people? Who likes old people? Because there is no culture. Before, at least, there used to be a culture. Nowadays, old age homes are opening in India also. No? I've heard about it. Old age homes are getting open in India. That means nobody wants to deal with old people. You just dump them there and then, whatever. Yeah. Pay for their monthly this and that. Somebody else will take care. So that also is coming. Or before it was just, before old people, they would just walk out of the home and then go into forest or something. Of course, nowadays you can't just go to any forest. It doesn't work. Or there are some cultures, like Papua New Guinea or something, old people, they're hunted for sports, and then the feast is made out of them, They consider that's very honorable, passing away. You know? Huh? You don't know? They're cannibals. Oh.
That's a tribal culture actually.
Yeah, it's a tribal culture. So I'm saying there are different ways to deal with old people. I'm just giving different examples. Yeah, so... So that's a tribal. Yes, that's a tribal. Nowadays, old age homes are also tribal. There's not much difference because they don't value old people. They don't understand. Of course, nowadays even the old people, so-called old people, they have nothing to offer. That's a problem also. They are really just a burden and trouble. But of course, it doesn't mean they should be just rejected. But in Vedic times, old people were an asset. Why? Because they had so much wisdom. They had so much knowledge. They had so much experience. Nowadays, that's not the case. So therefore, just a burden. Yeah, just a burden. So both ways it's a trouble. And then everybody goes through these insults, and everybody's unhappy, and so much, so much quarrel, so much intolerance. That's a modern world. Okay, for some of you, maybe you don't know what we are discussing here. This is description of this material world. Because we come to this material world, it says here, we think it's the forest of enjoyment. But that so-called enjoyment turns into absolute misery. It's not what it looks like. That's another dream world, illusion. Yeah? We think, everything is just set now, I can be happy and I can enjoy and I can everything, I can pluck the ripe fruits of happiness. I'm going to be very sour and bitter. Yeah, it's not exactly what we think it is. Okay, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, it is said that necessity knows no law. When the conditioned soul needs money to acquire life's bare necessities, he adopts any means. There is a saying, Guna Rupa Rashi, what is this? Can't remember Sanskrit now, but it says that sometimes the poor people, they don't have a good qualities. Not necessarily because somebody is poor, but sometimes people in need. Guna Rupa Nashi. How is that? Anybody knows this? Guna Rupa Nashi. How is it going? Anyway, maybe I'll remember later on. Because sometimes you're in a very dire kind of condition. And just like Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, pointing out here, he said he will adopt any means. I've been to Africa, people are, really poor there. Or what to speak, you're in South Africa or somewhere, it's like it's such a huge rate of crime, and they don't care, and they don't mind whatever they're going to do whatever want to do. Yeah? So that's a condition. That's very heavy. It's very heavy. India still has, there's nobody really hungry or whatever. India has resources, but some places are, it's really hellish. Central America, so much crime, so many murders, so many rape cases, so much theft, so much. It's inconceivable. Of course, in some so-called developed countries, it's more sophisticated, it's more subtle, it's more like nowadays you have to be careful with any phone call that comes, about any, again, transaction, about any email, about any, so many things go on. Just like we had one boy that was last year, last to last, and that started cybercrime or something, how they call it. That's one thing. No, but there was he received a call that, this is police, whatever, blah, blah, blah. How is that called? They have some term for this also. And you have to transfer this money, otherwise you will be persecuted and this and that. And this fellow crazy, somehow he trusted, And they were threatening him, and they said, "We are following you, whatever you're doing, you're this, you're that, Amazing, Such a stupid thing. And he transferred to them like few lakh rupees. And figure out later on it was all a scam. So many foolish things happen, But just recently also, somebody hacked someone's phone, and that person was sending messages, "Oh, I need so much money, I need this, send me, this and that." So there are foolish people who fall for such kind of cheating business now. So we should not allow ourselves to be foolish, because this is real such a nonsense. Okay, so he begs, borrows, or steals. No, beg, borrow, or steal. Just get what you need, what you want. Unless one is very well organized, one can accumulate riches by unfair means. That's very interesting. In Europe, how did aristocracy develop? Anybody knows the history? Of course, you don't have an Indian history, but you know about the world history. History of aristocracy is the one who was the greatest murderer and plunderer would be pillaging other, properties. He wouldn't be able to be entitled to anything. So anybody who is entitled, that means is the greatest thief and murderer. So just based on money. That's why it said in Kali Yuga, people will be respected just on the basis how much money they have. That's it. It's not whether somebody is a good person or a nice person. No, it's just based how much money he has. If you're a Bill Gates or someone, it doesn't matter how many people you cheat and what you do and whatever else goes on. It doesn't matter. But if you have money, everybody will pay dandavats to you. Everybody's going to lick your boots. That's what it is. If you have money, then you can buy position, then you can practically lead the wars if necessary. And everybody will be forced to respect you. Very simple. Even if they don't respect you like this, maybe just because you just have money, which also many people do, but then even those who have a little character or something, they'll be forced. That's Kali Yuga. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. So even if one acquires riches by unfair means, he cannot avoid punishment and insult from the government or general populace. Well, that also happens. That also happens. Like there was Mr. Nobel. What was his name? Anybody knows? Nobel Prize. What was his name? Nobel what? Nobel is his last name. What was his first name? Alfred. Okay. Alfred. Mr. Alfred Nobel. How did this Nobel Prize manifested? Anybody knows the background?
I think he discovered some.
He discovered. Okay, I'll tell you.
Any item is very explosive.
No, that's not how it happened. Nobel Prize, I'm talking about Nobel Prize. I'm not talking about Nobel Dynamite. I'm talking TNT, I'm talking about Nobel Prize. He was a person who was, yes, he discovered dynamite, and dealing with weapons, selling the weapons. Nowadays most profitable industry, one of the, aside of all the other sinful meat and the prostitution and whatever, gambling and this and that. So he was selling arms to so many different parties, where also that was not supposed to be done, as illegal, so many things. So he accumulated huge wealth because he was in such kind of business, arm business, selling weapons and this and that, dynamite and whatever it is. Huge business. And then he had a brother who died. His brother died. And now one of the reporters mistook that he died. Not that his brother died, that he died. So there was an article, and he traveled throughout Europe. So in France, in Paris, although he was from Sweden, whatever, but he used to do business with everyone. So in France, they made an article, the merchant of death died. The merchant of death, that's somebody who's sponsoring death, who's selling so many weapons, like this. So that was the title. And he came to know about it, that was the newspaper title. And then he kind of, wow, this is what people think of me. And finally it kind of clicked, Finally kind of. So only based on that people will have good image about him. Then he said, okay, I will leave my money, for some kind of, good cause, kind. That was the triggering point. Just because he understood people have a bad opinion about him. Just because of that. Not because he was thinking about good causes in the first place. He was just thinking about his own name and position. That's how the Nobel Prize started. That's it. Not very dharmic. Not very dharmic. So yes, and punishment will follow, insults, it will, revelation about whatever is going on. It's going to surface out sooner or later. Even if it's later, it's not going to be too late, because this life is not all in all. So Srila Prabhupada says, there are many instances of important people embezzling money, getting caught and being put in prison. That also happens. You'll find, the government changes or something, then they will say, wow, you're involved in corruption, this happened, that happened. Even after that is, after some years ago, or whatever, some scams things surface out. Yeah. I can really, there are so many examples. People, sometimes even, presidents and so many people are involved in such kind of scams and horrible things. Anyway, cheating business, exploiting people. Everybody, not so many, everybody. It's just a matter of time when it's going to be revealed. Anyway, so one may be able to avoid the punishment of prison, but one cannot avoid the punishment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who works through the agency of material nature. So karma, you cannot avoid. Karma you will not be, nobody can avoid. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita. Daivihyesha gunamaya manomaya duratya. Nature is very cruel. She does not excuse anyone. You touch the fire, it will excuse because the child is touching? No, the laws are right. That's it. When people do not care for nature, they commit all kinds of sinful activities, and consequently they have to suffer. That's why we said dharma. Dharma means you learn the laws. That's it. It's very simple. How things function. You learn the causes and effects. That's it. You just learn that. That's what dharma means. And then you know how to operate your life. That's what we're doing. That's what spiritual life is all about. Just learn the process, if nothing else. Even if you don't have a heart within it, but at least follow the principles, you'll benefit. No? The purity of the heart will manifest. That will follow also. But even if you don't want that, or don't care about it, at least be intelligent, follow the laws. Yeah? That's why even demons, those who are very intelligent demons, they will follow their National Dharma. They will follow, because they follow the laws, they know how to get what they want. Even they don't care about Krishna, or even hate Krishna, whatever, but they will follow Krishna's laws. Interesting. Because they figured it out. It works. It works. Okay, we land here. Any questions on this? Okay, and we'll stop. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavatam ki jai, Guru Premanande Hari. Yeah, okay.
Does chaos, ultimate chaos, ultimately leads to creation of something? Too much chaos. That's a chaos theory.
Chaos leading to creation.
Yeah, ultimately.
No, unless somebody is capable of turning that into creation. On its own, it's impossible.
Not on our level. On universal level.
Universal level, there's always someone behind. There's no example of chaos leading into anything constructive. Doesn't work. Somebody has to stop the chaos and reverse the process. On any level. And therefore, somebody has to know what is to be done. Otherwise, it just leads to complete destruction.